Hey everyone, welcome back to English 310 Business Communications. I'm your instructor, Erwin Swetnam, and today we're diving into Chapter 3, Organizing and Drafting Business Messages. We're going to cover some awesome strategies to help you go from blank page panic to confident and effective communicator. But first, let's kick things off by going over what we're going to learn today. By the end of this session, you should be able to 1. Compare two forms of research that begin Phase 2 of the 3x3 writing process. 2. Demonstrate methods for organizing ideas to show relationships. 3. Write effective sentences that avoid fragments, run-ons, and comma splices. 4. Demonstrate methods for emphasizing ideas using active and passive voice, developing parallelism, and placing modifiers correctly. 5. Explain how to create well-organized, coherent paragraphs. Sounds straightforward, right? But don't worry, I'll make sure we have some fun with it. Now, there's also a list of key terms at the back of the chapter. We're not going to go through all of them right now, but I'll mention a few along the way. I know you're eager to dive into the action, so let's get started. Alright, let's jump right into Phase 2 of the 3x3 writing process, which is all about researching, organizing, and drafting. Remember, the first phase was pre-writing. Please follow along with me as I move through Chapter 3 of our textbook. You know what they say, failing to plan is planning to fail. In business writing, that means you don't just wing it. Before we draft anything, we need some background information. Let's say your boss just sent you an email asking for a report on how to improve customer service. You don't just start typing, you start by asking, what does the receiver need to know? What do they need to do? And by when? Gathering this information up front makes the whole process smoother. For informal research, think of those everyday tasks, drafting emails, writing memos, preparing short reports. You can gather this kind of info by searching company files, talking to your boss, or even brainstorming ideas with your colleagues. Imagine you're tasked with improving the company's onboarding process. You'd likely start by talking to HR, reviewing old training guides, and maybe even surveying new employees about their experience. When it comes to more complex projects, we shift into formal research mode. Think surveys, interviews, and data analysis. If you're writing a big report on market trends, you might look at research papers, conduct your own surveys, or analyze customer data. Formal research is the big leagues, folks. Once you've done your research, you need to organize your ideas. Imagine you're organizing your closet. Everything should be grouped logically so you can find what you need when you need it. In writing, we do the same. A quick way to start organizing is with a scratch list or an outline. Think of it as your GPS for writing. Whether you're crafting a memo or a report, outlining your points first can save you from getting lost in the weeds. Typical document components. Most business documents follow a set structure. Whether it's an email, a memo, or a report, there's usually an opening, a body, and a closing. You wouldn't start a movie with the climax, right? It's the same with writing. Start with a clear introduction, dive into the facts, and then wrap up with a conclusion. Writing a first draft with powerful sentences. Now it's time to draft. This is where we turn our research and organization into sentences. But not just any sentences, powerful sentences. Think of these as your building blocks. A good sentence can carry a lot of weight, but a bad one? It'll bring the whole thing down. Adding interest and variety with 4 sentence types. When writing, you've got 4 sentence types to play with: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Mix these up to keep things interesting. Nobody wants to read 10 simple sentences in a row. That's like eating plain toast for every meal. Let's add some flavor. For example, our company lacked a social media presence, so we hired a specialist. That's a compound sentence, short, sweet, and to the point. Avoiding 3 common sentence faults. Be careful of common pitfalls like fragments, run-ons, and comma splices. These are like potholes in the road that trip up your reader. For example, a run-on might look like this. The report was due yesterday, it's still not finished. Yikes, that's a bumpy ride. Throw in a comma or a semicolon and you've smoothed things out. Choosing short sentences. Keep your sentences short and punchy. 20 words or fewer is ideal, but don't get too choppy or you'll sound like a robot. Mix things up to maintain flow and keep your reader engaged. Mastering helpful writing techniques. Let's move on to some writing techniques that will really make your work shine. Creating emphasis. When you want to emphasize a point, you can do it mechanically or stylistically. Boldface, italics, or even all caps can work wonders, but sometimes it's all about where you place the idea in your sentence. Put the most important info at the start or the end of a sentence to make it stand out. Using active and passive voice effectively. We usually want to stick to the active voice. It's clearer and more direct. For example, the company hired John, but sometimes the passive voice is useful, like when we need to be more diplomatic. Mistakes were made. You'll get the hang of when to use each one. Creating parallelism. Make sure your sentences are parallel. That means if you start listing things, they should all follow the same structure. For example, we are planning, executing, and reviewing flows better than we are planning, execution, and review. Keep things balanced for clarity. All right, now we're getting into the final stretch paragraphs. Every paragraph needs a clear topic sentence. It sets the tone and tells your reader what to expect. For example, flexible work schedules boost productivity. Boom, right to the point. Your supporting sentences back up that topic sentence. Think of them as your evidence. They add details and flesh out the main point, like explaining how flexible schedules reduce stress and increase focus. Creating paragraph coherence means all your ideas should stick together. Use transitional words and repeat key ideas to guide your reader smoothly from one point to the next. It's like building a bridge from one thought to the next. And remember, keep your paragraphs short and sweet, 8 lines or fewer. If you find yourself rambling, it's time to break it up. All right, let's wrap this up with a quick review of what we've covered in Chapter 3. First, we talked about 2 forms of research, informal and formal, and how to use them. Second, we dove into organizing ideas with lists, outlines, and strategies like the direct and indirect approach. Third, we got into the nitty-gritty of writing sentences, avoiding fragments, run-ons, and comma splices. Fourth, we learned some helpful writing techniques like how to emphasize ideas, use active and passive voice, and ensure parallelism. Finally, we discussed how to create well-organized, coherent paragraphs that are easy to follow and packed with useful information. So there you have it, folks. Chapter 3, Organizing and Drafting Business Messages, wrapped up and delivered with some good energy and practical tips to make your writing clearer, more engaging, and definitely more effective. As always, practice makes perfect, so make sure you're applying these concepts in your assignments and workplace communications. And before you head out, remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends, classmates, and anyone else who might benefit from these tips. The more we spread the word, the better our writing community becomes. Until next time, keep those sentences sharp, your paragraphs organized, and your ideas flowing. See you in the next chapter.